my name is Brett Turnage. I'm from Moreno Valley, California, and my product is the Manhattan intercooler or modular intercooler system. Back when I was in college, I started my first company, which was a BTI intercooler company. It was something I built on the side and then just started selling it for people with Mustangs and did fairly well. But eventually that company kind of went down with the whole market crash when it happened, and I decided to change careers. I went to law school. When I came back from law school, I was kind of like, you know what? I don't think I want to be an attorney. I grew up in the car world. I want to go back into the car world. I was kind of happy where I was. And I had a good friend who had understood that, I had this background in law, I had this background in intercooling, and I was also taking carbon fiber more seriously versus before law school. It was more of a that'll do attitude. It wasn't the greatest. And when I came back from law school, it was more like, let's get in here and really make it perfect. He kind of gave me a task and said, I've got a couple of race teams and they've got an issue. How could you figure out how you could put carbon fiber on the intercooler while also seeing how we can make the intercooler more functional, maybe update the technology? And the intercooler technology, radiators and everything, have always kind of been the same for the last 50 years. We've seen a couple of new designs come out with the fin design, but the way that you put it together has always been static welding, fixed, and once it's done, it's done. And what happens if you crash your car? I had a lot of teams that were professional drift teams when I was also growing up, and they would crash their cars, and we have to rush a welder out over there, or even at the drag trap. So we kind of looked at this idea of how could you make a system where it could be pulled apart, taken apart. And so I learned CAD, I learned 3D printing, and it was all for this design. And eventually I came up with this idea, the Manhattan, which is an intercooler that is modular. So that's kind of the idea, is kind of, it's on both sides of adaptability, changeability, replaceability. If you, let's say, blow a turbo, and I've done this before, I had customers where they would have an oil leak problem and they send me back their intercooler and it's full of oil, and I'm sitting there with a hose and some Dawn. Now you can completely pull the thing apart, hot tank it, and you're good. Clean all the debris. When I first got awarded the patent, my mentor at the time, he knew Brad Lewis at Turbonetics, and we reached out to him and pretty much pitched the idea and said, here's the idea. And he absolutely loved it because he saw it as a way that to take the intercooler or radiators or any type of heat exchangers and turn it into a serviceable part. Even though we didn't tie together, they've always been a big supporter of the stuff. And so when I finally came out with the official prototype, when I made it, because I learned through the patent process that there's a difference between kind of bringing somebody a concept versus saying, here is actually the part. You could touch it, you could see it, you could feel it. There's a very big difference in people understanding your product and kind of seeing the vision of it. So when I first came out with the prototype and I sent pictures to all these people, Brad Lewis, Reeves Calloway of Callaway Corvettes, and a lot of other people who have kind of been supporters of me, they were really blown away by it, and they were really just like, wow, that looks amazing. It looks wonderful. I got some good comments on the titanium bolts on this one. So we're gonna have, so just recap, we're gonna have static systems that are already pre-made kits for cars. We're gonna have a plastic version and a carbon fiber version. And then there's gonna be DIY, but there's also gonna be the option where people can custom make an intercooler. The thing that I've experienced, which I'm sure you've heard from a lot of places, that is if you're bringing a new technology, it's trying to get people to believe in that technology. And if you don't have any big wins or big accreditations underneath your belt, places kind of don't take you seriously, especially in my situation where, yes, we're talking about a modular intercooler, but yet it's still proving, one, it's not going to leak, one, the technology can work, two, that it's feasible, and three, things like carbon fiber end tanks won't crack, because unfortunately in the industry of carbon fiber that most people know of, which is lips and splitters and stuff, most people think, oh, it's very fragile. Having SEMA, which is great that this is a part of SEMA and not just some third-party group, but actually have SEMA recognize you. Even to be as a semi-finalist right now is a huge deal for me.